Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. Manifesting's a funny thing. A lot of people see it as techniques. A lot of people think that manifesting is this thing that you do. And it's not. It's something we're doing constantly. So yeah, you're right. You're doing it, but all the time. Something that happened in my life recently that I thought was just a perfect example of how simple manifesting is, how troubles within our lives can be resolved, and how often, once we figure out how to resolve the trouble, the problem actually goes away. And then I'm going to demonstrate how these things happen to us throughout our lives, these simple little things that can actually be deal breakers for so many of the manifestations we're trying to create. There's this traffic signal on the way to the coffee shop I go to, and there's not like I can go another way. It would be way, way longer to go a different direction. And this traffic signal had the crosswalk button like stuck, and it's going the opposite direction. So literally every 28 seconds, it would change to allow the normal majority of traffic to go. And then after a short period of time, it would flip back and that crosswalk thing, and it would just cause traffic to be blocked up. It's been like this for weeks. So typically, you'd hit it, right? I'd get stuck, I'd hit it, I'd be driving up, it's green, and then turns red, and it's like, I'm sitting here at a red light for 26 seconds while I wait for nobody. There's nobody walking, there's no cars coming, it's just because the light is jacked. What I started to do, because I got tired of waiting, is I said, why don't we just time it out better? Why don't I just make sure that I'm actually getting to the light right when it's turning green, and that way I don't have to worry about this waiting. Duh. Simple, right? So that's what I did. I said, it's funny how I'm always showing up at this light right when it's turning green, and I can make it through this light every single time. It's funny how that happens. And you know what started happening? I started getting to the light when it was green, or I'd make it through the green cycle, or maybe I was even a little ways away and I'm punching it so I can because I know it's about to change. But overwhelmingly went from hitting always red light to overwhelmingly green. Now, one of my favorite things to talk about when it comes to manifesting, it was the first thing I manifested. It was a beach ball. And beach balls are awesome, depending on where you are. I mean, I live in California, but I don't have like a pool or anything, right? Like, I don't own a beach ball, but they're something that's possible to see. Like, it's not like you live on Mars and you're like, I'm going to try to manifest a beach ball. That's going to be tough. You might be able to, but it's going to be a lot tougher. So you want to pick something that's possible, but not like in your house already or whatever, right? Like, or something that's just right outside your front door. That's kind of cheating. So I chose a beach ball. It was the first thing I did. I think I was reading Richard Bach or something at the time when I was doing it. And I imagined it. I imagined holding it. I imagined the smell, the sound, the whole idea of it. And lo and behold, it was probably 2 days later, I don't know, maybe a day later, but I was driving to work, and in the gutter of the road was a beach ball. In the gutter of the road was a beach ball, and I started laughing because I knew that was my beach ball. So there's very specific, simple things that we can manifest in our lives to demonstrate, for those of you maybe that don't know that manifesting works. The beach ball is a fun one because you can actually create a beach ball to come into your life by imagining, just thinking of holding it. Imagine it in your mind. Imagine the smell. Imagine the touch. Imagine the colors. Imagine the way it feels, how it's kind of spongy almost because of the air, because you don't fully blow them up really awesome sometimes. But you imagine it. Or traffic signals are another fun one. There's probably a light that is frequently red for you. It doesn't need to be. And it's just timing, really, folks. Really. And you're just putting yourself onto a different timing. You're not doing anything magic. You're fitting into the world in the way that's always been there, but you're choosing how you want to fit into the world. Most people just let it happen by happenstance, and in a lot of cases, most people have pretty bad energy about them, so they generally experience the crummy things. The red lights, people being weird to them, people being grumpy, that rude employee, that horrible boss. You see, when you start to clean up that inner part of ourselves and just let things happen, you tend to end up with the cooler boss, a nicer job. You just do. Now, when we consciously create, it's amazing what can happen, especially when you've kind of got everything moving in the right direction within your life. So the one thing that a lot of people don't really pay attention to, one, I want you to maybe practice this. If you're someone that hasn't really played around with manifesting, definitely try beach ball or something simple. Might be different for you. Maybe even getting someone to text you. Not someone that's like, died or something, right? Or someone that you haven't talked to in 20 years. You can, and it will possibly happen. It helps if they have your phone number, make it doable. But you can actually see someone's text message coming through from an individual that you'd like to try this with. You'd be amazed how this works. So my point is in all this, aside from trying to prove it to yourself, which I think is super important, but the other side of this is when you pay attention to the times in our lives that we say things like, this always happens, or I always forget my keys when I leave the house, or I always do this when I pull out of this particular parking place, or I always forget to do X, Y, and Z, or he always catches me when I'm a little late from lunch. We say statements in our lives that are the exact same thing as what we do when we manifest because, again, we're manifesting 100% of the time. And we don't notice we do it. We don't notice that we keep making sure that light's always red because we say it's always red. Every time we get here, it's always red. This light's always red. That person's always rude to me. I always forget something. Think of all the places in our lives where we do that. All you got to do to undo it, by the way, is change it. Just immediately change it and go, it's always, and then say the positive thing. That person's always cool, or I always get the nice employees, or I always manage to, sneak in, when I'm late or whatever. Like, change it. And you don't have to freak out that I've said it that way for 100 years. It doesn't matter. Universe gives you a chance to paint your tomorrow's picture every single day. Every day, what you're doing today is painting your picture. I mean, really, you're not just tomorrow's picture, but your in a moment picture. You're constantly repainting or even refreshing, to use kind of a monitor term or a computer term, right? You're refreshing your screen every day, every moment. And it's based off of your thoughts. It's based off the words you use. It's based off of the energy you're holding. It's based off of what you believe to be true about your current environment. What you believe is what's going to happen. What you put out there is what's going to come back to you. When we pay attention to these things, we are dynamos. So again, it's one of those things. Just because you're seeing something in the outer world doesn't mean it has to stay that way. And if you like what you're seeing in the outer world, keep doing what you're doing on the inner world, and you'll keep experiencing that on the outer world. If you don't like what you're seeing in the outer world, fix what's happening in the inner world. Work on your thoughts, work on your energy, work on your sometimes hatreds, sometimes angers. For those of you trying to get back in relationships, make sure you've got all that disharmony taken care of. Because if you don't, if you've still got a whole bunch of mangled feelings inside of you, that's what's coming through, okay? You can manifest collisions with each other all day long, but if your energy's out of whack and you get together and you just start glaring at the person, you're not getting back together, period. I don't care how strong your manifesting skills are. There's more to it than just that. Every one of us are dynamos when we pay attention to what we're doing. And again, if you see something in your outer world that you're not liking, fix what's going on inside. You'll turn it around almost immediately. Dan, RadioStyle.